Hello and welcome to the Owner Finance Academy, where we help Canadians build wealth by buying U.S. real estate and selling with owner financing. Before we begin, a quick reminder that everything shared on this channel is for educational purposes only. Every situation is different, so please do consult your own qualified legal, tax, accounting, and financial professional before making your final investment decisions. In this video, we'll talk about what states you should select to invest. As you know, we advocate for a land contract, agreement for deed, or contract for deed strategy in which you as a Canadian borrow, buy a livable property, do little to no renovations, sell as is using a contract for deed, an agreement for deed, or a land contract, and you're selling on long-term loan terms of 30 years. And so you're acting as the bank and providing a service to the person who is purchasing the property from you in the United States. There are a few states that are more conducive than others for doing this strategy. Three of them include Alabama, Ohio, and Arkansas. And if you stick around in this video, we'll share a few more. But before we begin, I'd like to share what are some of the criteria that make a state favorable for this strategy. The first and probably the most important is availability of inventory. Whatever state you pick needs to be a state that actually has homes where the strategy works, and you're looking for states where you can buy a home for $20 to say $50 or $60,000 at the most. And so you don't want to pick a state where there are only 2 or 3 homes at that price. You want a state that has an abundance, and we will look together in Zillow in a few moments and show you that the states that I'm recommending are states that have an abundance of these homes. So first criterion is that there are homes that are at the right price between 20 and say 50 or 60K. A second criterion would be that the state actually wants you to be doing this kind of business. Now, it's no sense going into a state where you'll be fighting an uphill battle. You want to go into a state that recognizes the value of owner financing as a strategy to allow people who otherwise could not afford a home to be able to get into a home. And so there are a few states that are favorable to land contracts, agreement for deed, and contract for deed. You want to look at those states and invest there. A third is another important criterion that has to do with the legal framework, and it has to be a state where they allow for forfeiture instead of foreclosure. Now, I want to start and be very clear here that the goal of this strategy is not to have your buyers turn over. In fact, whenever they turn over, you lose money. They lose the opportunity to get the home, and no one wins. So the ideal is for your buyer to stay for the entire 30-year and to win. But let's say they do not and they end up defaulting, so they stop making payments. You want to be operating in a state that makes it legally fair for them to redeem if they want to redeem, or for you to repossess the home. And not every state works the same. So ideally, you were looking for a state that allows for forfeiture instead of just foreclosure. A forfeiture process is quicker. It allows for a redemption period that is fair based on the amount of equity that the buyer has put in. And once that redemption period has expired, then you can get your property back again. All right, a fourth criterion will be the rental amount. It's one thing for the house to be available at 20, 30, 40, 50K, but it's no use to you if the rent that it commands is not enough to pay your own loan. Because as you know, in this strategy, you'll be borrowing funds yourself to buy the property cash, and you have an obligation to pay back that loan for the first 5 to 6 or 7 years. So you need to make sure that the rent you can command for that property is going to be enough to cover your cost and also cover property taxes and insurance. All right, let's look at what the criteria are thus far. We've talked about the inventory. There needs to be an abundance of homes at the right price. We also said that you need to be working in a state that is favorable to you. Sometimes in the rent world, you would call that a landlord-friendly state, but here you're looking for a land contract, agreement for deed, or contract for deed friendly state. You also want a state that allows for a fair process for you to repossess the home if ever there is an issue with your buyer, and also a fair process for them to redeem. You want a place that, of course, has affordable rents, and where the rent amount is similar to what you'll be charging for your payment on your property. And so there needs to be good correlation between the price and the rent. And I would say the last criterion will be time. You want to look at a property where that period of time to actually go through the forfeiture process isn't years. It has to be measured in months. And I would say ideally 6, 7, or 8 months at the very most will be ideal. So those are the 5 criteria. When you look at those 5 criteria, there are a few states that really rank high. Alabama is a good state. We've got Arkansas, we've got Michigan, we have Ohio. Those are some of the states that I would encourage you to consider. Missouri as well is on there. Illinois and Indiana are all good states. So for today's video, though, I'm going to do the exercise and go through, say, 3 of the states I've just mentioned here, and we will look at some of the inventory and see how well those states fit the model. Here we are in the first of 3 states that we'll look at today, and this is Birmingham, Alabama. As you can see, I applied a filter, homes with 3 bedrooms or more, up to $60,000, and as you can see here, we have more than 40 listings, so there is enough here. And if we look through, we can see the state that these homes are in. Now, as you know, at this price point, not every home is going to fit the model. We're looking for homes that are livable, and you might have to dig, you might have to look, but eventually you will find one that is livable. This one here is quite nice. Asking price of $60K. Some good negotiation skills would definitely bring that down to the 40 range. This one here is asking 54. Again, very livable, very nice. And so this is one example of one market, just a few moments of searching, and already we've got a few candidates. Let's look at the next state, which is going to be Toledo, Ohio. All right, so here we are again, 60 homes in the model. We've got some as low as 29K, some in the 40s, some in the 50s. Let's look at the inside of these ones here. All right. Yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah, this is actually quite good. Let's have a look at this one. This is an interesting one too, because it shows us it is currently rented at 1,000. So for those of you who are familiar with the rental world, we often talk about the 1% rule, which is the ideal state where you have a monthly rent amount that is 1% of the asking price. In this case here, we are beating that handsomely. In fact, we're at 2%. So here we are. This would definitely be enough rent amount for us to be able to charge a monthly payment that would cover our loan cost. And this is definitely a livable home in the 40K range. And they're asking 49. You definitely could negotiate and get it for less. All right, so that is Toledo. And our last example will be Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Here we've got 33 homes that fit the model, fit the price range, and here is one right here at 50K. Right? There we have it. We've looked at 3 states very quickly, some easy filters. We validated that rental amount in these states would be enough for us to charge a payment that covers our loan and that allows enough room for taxes and insurance. We would spend 5 years repaying our loan, and starting in year 6 on to year 30, we would be generating cash flow from our buyer having purchased this home from us on owner financing terms. If you like to learn the complete Owner Finance Academy system for Canadians investing remotely in the US, you'll find a link to the full course in the description. If you're not quite ready for the full course, or you'd simply like a practical tool to get started, you can download the free Slow Flip Viability Diagnostic tool. It'll help you evaluate whether the house you're looking at right now is a good fit for the strategy. And if you like to learn in a team, and in fact would like someone to help you transform your own financial journey by helping you acquire your first property in the US and selling it with owner financing, you can join the free Slow Flip Strategy cohort where we teach you in the group how to go through this process and get some help from other fellow investors. You can sign up for that too using the link in the description. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.